Hey there, if you are flying soon, you need to watch this travel tip video. My travel tips are going to help you know the latest updates for airline travel, domestically as well as international travel. If you're flying soon, one travel tip is to download your airline's app. You are going to be in charge of rebooking that flight with no change fees in most airlines yourself. You will have control over a lot of the changes that may need to be made. You can see where the airplane is coming from. You can see where it is parked at on your way to the airport to be dropped off at which terminal, for example. If your flight is canceled, you can be the one to find that out first and book the hotel room or rent a car. For example, here's a travel tip that will help make any trip easier, and that is to pack 2 shirts and 2 pairs of undies in a compression packing cube that will compress the air and make it in the form of a book, for example. You're going to pack that in your personal item bag that fits under the airplane seat in front of you. Or if you're stranded, you will have a few days worth of clothes to get you back home somehow. Also, if the overhead bins are full, they may say, "Welcome to our flight. You now need to check your bag and you can pick it up at your final destination or the next layover place." And that means you don't have to pay the fees to check it last minute. But if that carry-on bag gets lost now, you have a couple of days worth of clothing. If this is your first time flying, or if you're new to our travel tip community, welcome. My name is Laurie and I'm a pilot wife, and I share tips that I have learned over 20 years of packing in a carry-on bag only. And I hope to help you travel the globe without a worry in the world. I'm going to give you many lists of travel tips in this video, so grab a journal or open up the notes section of your phone to keep track of my tips that I share with you. Another travel tip to know is that your carry-on bag might get checked if your boarding number is halfway through or near the end of the line to get onto the airplane. So for example, if your airline has an order of boarding people into the airplane of A, B, C, D, E, and your boarding order is C, D, or E, you might have to check your carry-on bag last minute, especially in the winter when there are winter coats taking up a whole lot of the overhead bins. But if you are in the last few sections of order, not necessarily in the back of the airplane, but in the order in which your airline boards, you could have to check your luggage last second and not pay for it. Here is what you need to know if that happens to you in the airplane or in the jet bridge or in the boarding area before your flight. I want you to have your medicine that is essential to your health packed already in your backpack or your personal item bag. And then also know that electronics that you've saved or packed in your suitcase for the hotel room, not while you need them on the airplane, but those electronics need to be moved to your personal item bag that's going to go under the airplane seat. Here's why I say to move your electronics to your personal item bag if it has to get checked last minute, is that chargers with those lithium batteries are combustible. If it catches on fire by chance in your carry-on suitcase in the cabin, flight attendants have these ways to put the fire out immediately. But if that lithium battery combusts in the belly of the airplane, there's no one down there to put out the fire. So those need to be in your personal item bag. One travel tip that I thought is worth mentioning, because I've heard flight attendants saying this in the airplane, and that is if you pack the 100 milliliter bottles of liquor, you are not allowed to drink it inside the airplane. So can't save money that way. And a lot of airlines are going to cashless. So update or upload your credit card. You can't even use your watch or your Apple Pay on board. You have to upload that credit card that you want to use for that trip beforehand. Most airlines have installed outlets in between seats, but some of them do not. And I do not know how to tell you whether or not your airplane's going to have that inside. Some of them are going to be stripped because of overuse. But one travel tip is that the outlet might be under your seat in between the seats, not necessarily in front of you. If you have a weird object that you need to know whether it is allowed to go in your carry-on bag or it has to be in checked luggage, or if it's not allowed at all, here is your travel tip. Go to TSA.gov, and in the upper right-hand corner is what can I bring? You can type in your item and it will say carry-on bag only, not checked luggage, or vice versa, or special instructions like baby formula and baby milk, stuff like that. Medicine, that's a huge help if you go to TSA.gov. If you choose to check your bag, I recommend Trackers by Apple or the Tile by whoever. I will list them below for you. That is a great tip for just a peace of mind, especially if you're traveling to another country and it's going to go through several luggage routes. If you are flying with a family member with a disability, a disorder, any issues that would benefit them by having help in the TSA line, do not miss the video about this free program that the Transportation Security Administration has for them now. Here's another updated tip for airline travel. A lot of you have noticed that some international airlines are restricting the weight of your carry-on suitcase or even the size of your personal item bag. So be sure to read the fine print for that particular trip. Some of you have also asked for tips about a rolling suitcase that would fit under the airplane seat, because you cannot lift a backpack or a tote bag anymore. And I have one that I found for you, but my tip as well is to Google your airline and then the size requirements for a personal item bag. I have 2 tips for planning your travel outfits. Number 1, choose basic colors. Number 2, choose thin layers. Solid trousers or shorts in the summer can be worn more than once. Then go crazy with the tops that you want to pack, because all of those will coordinate with each other and therefore multiply your outfits for that vacation. Another travel tip is that shoes take up most of the weight and the space in a carry-on suitcase. So here is my goal for you on your next trip. Only pack 2 pairs of shoes, and do not forget about the airport outfit shoes. If you are flying to a beach resort, okay, you can pack 1 more pair of thin sandals or flip-flops if they're supportive for you. Another tip is that the government has delayed the Real ID date that you have to have the star on your ID. One tip that I use for travel is to use my passport for my ID going through airport screeners instead of my driver's license. I find that it's less easy to lose. Yes, that makes sense, right? If I only show my passport because it's bigger, then if I'm in a hurry, I will see it and I will make sure I can put it in an easily accessible pocket and then get organized once I get through security and make sure everything is in its organized place for the trip. One great travel tip for 2023, 2024 even, is that a lot of airports have newer technology for the TSA screening. In Phoenix Sky Harbor and BWI Airport, I think, you can now use your government issued ID or your driver's license that's stored in your Apple Watch or your Apple Wallet as your ID going through security. That way you do not have to fool with or risk losing a driver's license or a passport. I will link the article below in that description box that starts with the sentence down there. In Las Vegas and other small airports, the Department of Homeland Security and the TSA have a new reduced form factor computed tomography. It's a new technology for carry-on luggage. That means it's just for carry-on luggage, more like a CAT scan, so that the officers do not have to inspect physically or manually bags as much anymore, and therefore people zoom right through security. Another travel tip is that you may not have to take out your liquids bag in the normal TSA security line. You may not have to take out your liquids. Did I say that? Take off your shoes. Many of my Travel Tip by Laurie viewers told me this summer, I didn't have to take out my liquids bag. They didn't make us take out our phone or our electronics even. And that is because of this new technology that is in some airports or some other screening device that they are trying in that airport for that part of your trip. So you may come back through 4 hours later and you now have to take out everything like you would in a normal security line. I'm looking forward to traveling to Europe next year, I hope. But the word in the air is that you will no longer have to take out your liquids in airport screening areas. But 2 travel tips about that are, number 1, it does not mean that the rule for liquids is going away, unfortunately. And 2, you will still have to pack them normally and be prepared to take them out just in case. But the whole reason or the goal behind that is that the TSA officers, or whatever they're called in Europe, so they do not have to inspect manually bags, and it just speeds all those wonderful travelers and tourists through their airport security line faster. But how do they get that? Through that CAT scan-like screening technology that some of the airports are using now, which costs lots of money and which takes lots of time to install in airports. So we're just going to watch and see what happens. One very important travel tip to help you be less stressed, because you stress less, and that is to remember that airlines board 20 to 30 to 45 minutes before the actual departure time. So that means if you are not there at the gate at the airplane where it's parked 20 minutes before it is supposed to fly, then they will not let you on board. Even 45 minutes if it's an international departure time. One travel tip is to know that the TSA officers want you to fly through airport security. And that means they do not want to have to touch any of your stuff, and therefore just have it packed so that there is no extra time that you need to be in that line. In the normal TSA line, you cannot have Kleenexes in your pockets. You cannot wear jewelry. You cannot wear a belt. You cannot wear a wallet. And you cannot have any liquid containers that are larger than 3.4 ounces. So my travel tip for you is to share that with the world and have everybody pack that stuff, their travel accessories, in their personal item bag or their suitcase before they even leave their house. Then when they are through security, they can get organized, put their travel gear where it goes, put their liquids where they want, maybe in their suitcase so they don't have to take it into the airplane, and then get organized with your ID and everything else. I do have travel tips though for my TSA PreCheck flyers, and that is, I found out this fall that you cannot have a shirt tied around your waist. It blocks something. You could be hiding something under there, is what the lady told me. Also, you cannot have super thin bracelets on in PreCheck. And you cannot wear a belt in most airports. I have seen at least 5 be told to go back and take off their belt in the PreCheck line. So just be aware of that. One travel tip I learned this year is that I can now separate my electronic cords so that I do not have to pack them all in my backpack. My cords that I'm going to use to charge my hearing aids, for example, and my watch charger, I'm going to have that in my suitcase. And then I'll have only my AirPods and maybe my charger for the car inside that backpack. I use this in the airplane seat pocket so that it flaps over, so I have easy access to my AirPods mid-flight. You don't have to do that. Just so you know, I have made so many mistakes flying for over 20 years. I'm only 21 years old. Did you know that? But I have made so many mistakes, but one of my most popular and helpful videos is what not to wear inside the airplane. And you may be surprised by many of those, and I have done many of those more than once. So I shared those in a video that I will list down below. You're going to find all of my details in the description box below, and that starts with the little sentence down here right above the t-shirts that I designed for travelers. You just click show more, read more, or the upside down carrot. Another helpful video is about the toiletries that I pack and organize in my carry-on bags for a trip. Be sure on your next trip to let us know and update us with tips that you find through airports or in the airplane or in hotels, as well. And say hey if you have not met us yet. Thanks for your time and happy, beautiful travels to you.